Hello, everyone. I have a special announcement to share with you today. Thanks to the generous support of our community, Too Young to Wed has now evacuated more than 1,000 of the highest risk Afghan women, girls, and their families from the country. I'm here today with my dear friend and colleague, Elisa Liz Munoz, Executive Director of the International Women's Media Foundation, which has been the premier sponsor of Too Young to Wed's evacuation program. It's my honor to invite Elisa to say a few words about why this initiative was so important to IWMF. And I also want to take this moment to personally thank you, Elisa, for everything you've done, both not just the financial support, but also the emotional support that you've offered myself and my team over the last year. But please, we'd like to hear from you.
I really have to thank Stephanie and Too Young to Wed for their tenaciousness and for reaching this incredible milestone. It's 1,000 people who have been given a chance to have a life and livelihood outside of Afghanistan. And those days that we were working with Stephanie, it was so clear to the IWMF that Too Young to Wed was the organization that we really had to work with. They were the ones who wanted to make sure that every single individual didn't just make it out of Afghanistan, but had a support system once they were out. Also focusing on those most in need and most in danger. There was a steep learning curve that Too Young to Wed really mastered quickly, but sharing the values that the IWMF shares with them, which is the safety, well-being, and long-term support of these individuals. And it was really imperative to us to be able to support Stephanie as much and as long as we could possibly do it. And we are thrilled and congratulate you for impacting so many lives. So thank you, Too Young to Wed.
I will say that it was definitely a team effort. We had many members stay up all night long, every night, day after day. I mean, the fall was completely insane. I mean, even as a veteran war correspondent, I've never experienced anything like that. And so my hat's off to my whole team for really giving it their all. But to everyone who came in and supported our team, it really means a lot. And especially to you and your team, Elisa. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for all that you have done. And just to emphasize, because I know that you would never say it, just how difficult it was physically and emotionally for you and your team to be up close and personal with every single one of these cases and making the emotional investment in each one of these 1,000 people.
Yes, and we are still taking care of our team in that way. We are actually in the process of doing offering kind of weekly services through our partners at the OME Foundation to help offer mental health support and mindfulness training and things like that for our past and current members, because we're still working on the front line in Afghanistan and other places as well.
It's also so important to keep in mind that even for those who were able to get out, they still need our support. They still count. Even though Afghanistan has fallen out of the news cycle, it's important to know that those 1,000 people and many, many more 1,000 people who did make it out of Afghanistan are trying to start anew, pick up their lives. The journalists who left are hopefully going to make it back into journalism, but that's not easy and they really need our support.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of them that we've spoken to directly are still learning the languages of the countries they've landed in. They have to they have to do it while, and not just to speak it, but to read and write it and all those kinds of things, and get used to new cultures and new ways of living, and still worrying about their families. These are still really big families, and we did evacuate immediate families for the most part, and because there were so many people at risk, and so a lot of them have extended family that are still not safe. So it's still been a journey for these families that it's going to take them a long time to properly settle, and so we're just grateful for everyone's support during this difficult time.
Yeah, and while it was so critical to get all of these people out, it's important to know that there are stories that still need to be told inside Afghanistan. And we also need to try to do all we can to make sure that those stories are told and that the stories of those left behind don't just fall out of the news and are forgotten.
Absolutely. I mean, there's still hundreds of female journalists there, and some of them we've been frank with that we wouldn't be able to evacuate, just because we can't evacuate everybody. There's just too many people, but we are hiring some of them to work with us in different capacities. And there's there's a lot of hopefully women who can be hired online in different capacities, and because they can't, most of them can't work outside of their homes. So, we're urging people to, urging them to put their resumes online and try to work from home in the cases where they can, because for not everyone was able to leave as well. Some had disabled parents or family members or different things that made it more difficult for them to travel.
Absolutely. And those left behind are facing increasing restrictions. The recent restriction about the face coverings, even on TV, is not just making it difficult for women journalists to continue to be in broadcast, but really impossible, because it wasn't just a message that you have to have your face covered. It was a message that your voice doesn't count, you don't count, and we're warning you to stay off the air, stay quiet. So I think it's really important to recognize that the situation, even though we couldn't possibly imagine that it would be getting worse than it was when we started trying to get these individuals out, it actually has gotten worse.
Yes, but we will continue advocating in the meantime, and pushing for people to continue to support women and girls in Afghanistan in any and every way. It still remains in my and not just my opinion, a Human Rights Watch opinion as well, that it's the most difficult place to be a woman or girl on the planet currently, and we need to push the international community to continue to support and advocate for the rights of women and girls in Afghanistan.
One of the Afghan women journalists who we are working with currently described Afghanistan as the largest women's prison in the world.
I have to say, I agree with that. It's, we're trying to find ways to work and support women and girls in the country, but it has a lot of restrictions. And so, yeah, it's definitely a challenge. So.
Well, congratulations on the 1,000 people that you helped to get out, and hopefully slowly but surely we can continue to help others.
Thank you so much, Elisa. Thank you to you, your whole team, and all the IWMF supporters and community members. It's an honor to partner with you, and I remain in awe of your organization, both for the support you've given myself, my colleagues, and to Young to Ed and all the women and girls we serve. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, Stephanie.